Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode, ESL Trailblazer. I'm Nandis. This week I thought I would continue on that topic I discussed 2 weeks ago in an episode about improvisation and stick to the theme of teacher tips. I feel like this is very important. I know that most of the episodes are about language for students of English, but in this episode I want to focus more on the teachers. I'm a teacher and I know a lot of viewers out there are teachers, and it's important that we cover maybe some things that I have learned over time that can help other teachers. So I've already discussed improvisation, and that's my first tip. Improvisation is something like that I mentioned 2 weeks ago in that episode that we're not encouraged to do, and it's never mentioned in any kind of teaching seminar. And well, why not? Why not, teachers out there? Give it a try. All basically it means is that you take some risks in the class, and the risks can be as simple as, letting your lesson plan go off course a little bit or on a tangent. And that can happen by allowing your students to comment or ask a question and talk about maybe a subject that's not right in your lesson plan or part of the exercises. It can be something as simple as that, because that natural interaction that happens is something that's very valuable to students. They like it, they trust you as a teacher more, and they feel more comfortable. And then when you're doing the real exercises, they will be more willing to follow you and do as you ask them to. So that's improvisation. I can talk about it more if I get feedback from you that you want to know more, but I'm keeping it just basic with that for now. What else is important? Important is to maybe correct students and do it vigilantly. And I know that this is always mentioned in teacher training courses, so you're not hearing it for the first time. But when I mean correcting, I'm not just talking about pronunciation errors. That's just so easy of a correction, isn't it, teachers? It really is. Like, you don't have to really think or work hard on that. What I'm really emphasizing with the correction is the language that's being used. Like, if you're teaching a grammar point in the past simple or a conditional or some language that's used for expressing opinions or whatnot, get them to use that language and then correct them if they're not using it appropriately. That's the correction that really matters the most. And that's harder for us teachers to do, and as a result, most of us don't do it. That's the truth, okay? So if you can do that, because students, especially the adults that I teach mostly, they expect correction, and they should, and we should give it to them because that's what we're there for to do. But they think that you're just gonna correct the language that they know and they use. That's a thing that I believe we don't talk about enough, is that a lot of students who are maybe intermediate and higher, especially the higher levels, when you teach them something new, you know what they do? In my experience, they don't use the new language. They just use what they know. They use what they know, everybody. I repeat it. They use what they know. Students, you know who you are, and teachers, you know what I'm talking about. So don't use what you know. Use what you don't know, students. Use what your teacher is teaching you. And that means, teachers, correct that. That's what you need to correct. And that's what you need to challenge your students to use, because that's what they are there for, right? Burn to learn. Let's make something happen. That's what you're there for. So that should be a focus and something that's expressed clearly in the lessons at the beginning when you first meet the students, or in every lesson. Introduce a scenario, teachers. For instance, you can say that this is not a classroom, this is a laboratory. And what do we do in the laboratory? What does laboratory mean? Right, what do we do in a lab? Scientists experiment. They don't know what the results are going to be. They're experimenting. They have some idea of what the results will be, but they're not sure. So experiment in here with language. You need to experiment. Take risks. See what will happen. What works for you. What doesn't work. What's more difficult. What needs more practice. A lab. It's an experiment. That's what we're doing here. That's one tip. Another tip is introduce some challenges at the beginning of the course or in the middle of the course to your students. Tell them, if they want to be great learners and they want you to be a great teacher, then the first step is to only use English in your classroom, and be vigilant with that, okay? If they want to show motivation, use only English. Hold them to that standard. Write it on the board and keep it there all the time. Okay? Not just for the lower levels, but the higher levels. Okay? And challenge number 2, use that new language that I was just talking about. Challenge number 3, students, ask the teacher questions. Not questions about grammar rules. They always are hesitant to do that, but just ask questions. Like, ask a question. Don't be afraid to ask a question. And that comes with the improvisation part, right? Okay? Finally, an analogy to students really helps them understand why you're there, what you're trying to achieve, what the point of the classroom is. So, my analogy that I like to use is comparing this classroom learning environment to going to the gym and training. Okay? If you go to the gym and train, and the trainer is going to show you how to do the exercise properly. If you do it improperly, okay, you are not going to gain strength and fitness. You're not going to be effective. And that's the same with teaching and learning, isn't it? Teachers and students out there, right? We need to correct our students properly so that our students learn properly the language, okay? And if you say that to your students, you're on the same wavelength now. And then you can cooperate to make something happen, burn to learn. You know the rest of the mottos, okay? Build momentum. So those are my tips. I'm going to finish off with something for the teachers. You can always start your classroom in an improvisational way by writing a quote on the board to start the lesson. Not a phrasal verb and not an idiom. We've done it. We're there. Let's switch it up. Let's do something new. Just do something different. Put the quote on the board. Of course, I realize, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to come off too aggressive. I know that for lower levels, you can't really do that, but it can be maybe a very simple quote. But for the higher levels, which is what I'm teaching and what my videos are mostly aimed towards, put a quote on the board. Get the students to discuss. Get the feedback from them. Just have a discussion about it. Make it 10 minutes. Make it 5, whatever, however far it goes, okay? I have one for you here. I need to read it off my notes here, but forgive me for that, but it's a little bit long. So, going to work for a large company is like getting on a train. Are you going 60 miles an hour, or is the train going 60 miles an hour, and you're just sitting still? Paul Getty, American entrepreneur. There's the quote. It's interesting because it's about work and business, and I teach a lot of business students. So it would be interesting to get their feedback on what he's trying to say there. 5 minutes, conversation, improvise, see what happens. So that's all I have for this week. I hope you enjoyed that, and I love your feedback. Teachers, I know we can do better, and let's just make something happen. I'm Nanda signing out. I'll see you next week. You know what to do. Subscribe, share if you know this would like it. Have a great week. I'll see you.